Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Executive Home for Word Tabernacle Church with Senior Pastor James Galliard in front of the family Christmas tree here.
So, yeah, kind of the church and family tree, but yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk. I've asked you if you would do this because it increasingly it seems like people don't stop, take a deep breath at Christmas and remember what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And that really makes me sad because I think kids miss out what maybe you and I had, or I know I had it, I'm sure you did, knowing your mother growing up, where you celebrate the birth of Jesus.
Right.
And it's so busy, it's so full of commercialism. Reflect on like what your family does to make sure that that part is still honored, and just share some tips with everybody watching for how we can bring it back to what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, the starting point, I grew up in the United Methodist Church, as you know, licensed and ordained United Methodist Church. One of the great things about growing up in Methodism was learning the liturgical calendar. Mm-hmm. It's not something we talk about a lot in our charismatic Pentecostal ecumenical churches today. But there are several spiritual or liturgical seasons a year. Mm-hmm. Prior to Christmastide, which is a season unto itself that begins on Christmas and goes until right after New Year's, you have a 3.5 week period prior to that called Advent. Mm-hmm. And I think the starting point for us as a family and as a church is really celebrating Advent. Because that gives you that 3-week window before Christmas comes, where you really have that moment of reflection, where Advent literally meaning a season of expectation, a season of encouragement, a season of anticipation. From a spiritual perspective, anticipating the birth of Christ. So you've got this 3-week Advent window where you really get a chance to do some spiritual things, reflect, anticipate, encourage people. So for us, from a church perspective, it starts with that. But even from a family perspective, it starts with that. As Christians, the whole purpose of Christmas is to celebrate a person, period. And so I think to your point, we have heavily commercialized the season, and I'm not anti-gift giving in any sense at all. I am a little anti-exaggeration of the commercialization. One of the things I shared with my congregation was we don't want to be overexposed to commercialization and underexposed to incarnation. So this God manifesting himself in flesh, incarnation, we don't want to be underexposed to that. So for me, it's about celebrating people, period. So for us, we celebrate the person of Christ, but then we also put a heavy emphasis on our family and on people. And so I've learned over the years to really diminish, we exchange gifts, but we try to be a lot more focused on what the gifts mean, focus on the people, focus on the family. So what we've tried to do is begin family traditions. And one of the things I share with my friends, and you've maybe heard me say this, the older I get, the more I appreciate my parents as parents. Because as my children go through different seasons, I start recognizing, goodness, it's hard being a parent.
Yes, yeah.
So you're trying to figure out how you keep it creative and how you keep it focused. And I just give my parents so much credit now because they just seem to have done it effortlessly. And so it's been a challenge for me to try to keep up with some of the things that they've done. So what we try to do is create our own traditions. And so...
what are some of them?
Yeah. So one of our family traditions, for example, is we've stopped spending so much money on things and started spending more money on experiences.
Good.
Because an experience is something that you're going to have a lifetime. They're going to outgrow the Uggs or the North Face jacket or whatever you buy them. They're going to outgrow that stuff eventually. But I now take a portion of the money that I'm going to spend on each individual child, take a portion of that out, add some money to it, and then make sure that we're doing something as a family in terms of some experience. Normally, it's either Hilton Head or maybe going up to Asheville, or maybe just spending a few days in somewhere in Virginia, but just kind of making up in our mind that we're just going to go do something as a family and have those experiences. So that has been huge. My kids, they look forward, they ask, what are we doing this Christmas? So for us, we worship on Christmas morning in our church. which is a Friday the 25th this year. And then we have a Sunday service 2 days later on the 27th. So that night or that afternoon, we'll leave and we'll be gone until New Year's Eve, and we'll spend 4 days or 4 nights together as a family, just kind of having a great time together. So I think one of the things to do is just to make sure the family has experiences.
Well, when you decided to do that, because kids do have peer pressure and all this other stuff, did you discuss it with them and kind of involve them in the decision? And I know as a parent, my dad used to always say, I got you where I wanted you to be, but I planted the seeds and it became your idea.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm hoping you did that.
Yeah, we really work well together as a family. I really believe in interactive kind of parenting. I'm going to ultimately make the decision because I'm the authority figure, but I do believe in their feedback. I want it to be a great experience for them, and I don't want it to just be stuff that I'm forcing on them. In some situations, I am, because I want them to have certain exposures that they don't yet know that they need to have.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I'm giving them those exposures. The other thing that I try to do on the exposure piece, Gene, is I try to plan out the upcoming year. So it's not, so for example, we have one of their Christmas gifts, and so they don't know this yet, so they may want to see this on air. But one of their Christmas gifts is I got tickets for The Lion King and DPAC.
Wonderful.
And so now I've seen Lion King on Broadway, and I've seen it in various venues around the country, but it's just really extraordinary to see a play like that. So we know when March comes that that's something that the tickets are purchased at Christmas time, because that's part of the year. So we try to look at 2 or 3 activities for the upcoming year, make that part of their Christmas gifts, so that we have something to look forward to. Again, in anticipation, it's a season of expectation, and that's very theologically sound, because a relationship with Jesus does lead you to having ongoing expectations. So I think when we're honoring the true meaning of Christmas, we're creating an environment where there's ongoing expectation and ongoing anticipation that people have all year long.
And the family is always celebrated by Christians and people of faith, that's just, a unit that God created, and it's just a very special to craft those activities together. One thing that my family started doing is we give each other gifts to a charity in honor of, and my friends too. I don't know whether they don't need another Christmas mug, and nothing wrong with that, but it's gotten so, even my brother and sister and I got together yesterday and we talked about, who do you want me to give an honorary gift for you? What organization? And I'd so much rather do that than to have another something that I've got to find someplace to put. Plus, it really, I think that carries out the spirit of Christmas too.
Absolutely, that's a great idea, and we've done historically where I'll have them, we try to do clothing donations and things like that. And one of the things that we do around Christmas time is we go through a purging of our personal items. But the caveat that they're taught is, I want you to identify 4 or 5 items that you really, really love and that you like to wear tomorrow if they were in your closet. So I don't want you just giving away the things you've outgrown or the things that are no longer, in style. I want you to identify that, saying to my son, I know you love that suit and that bow tie, that's exactly why you're donating it. And I know you love those boots, and that's exactly why you're donating them. So we go through that process as a family every year, just when we do our donations, so that we can, really be kind to somebody else. We also try to identify a family that we can be a blessing to, so that my kids are taught, when you're going shopping for your siblings and your parents and your grandparents, try to identify somebody, get a gift that we're going to give anonymously that will be a blessing to a child in a homeless shelter or somebody that's really struggling. Our big tradition starts actually Christmas Eve, and so I've been doing this now for, goodness, 15 or 20 years.
You cook. I think you cook, don't you?
I always cook Thanksgiving and New Year's. That's a big deal. Christmas, that's a big deal for us. But everyone gets brand new pajamas every year on Christmas Eve. So and I wrap them and I leave them on their bed. So they open up their pajamas every year Christmas Eve. And then,
Are they color coordinated?
They're not. I just try to do stuff that I think will be fun for them. And then, so we all take our showers, we put our pajamas on nice and early, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then we play video games, but we play what I call the old school video games, like Pac-Man, and that kind of stuff, Galaga, and those kinds of games we play as a family and just kind of have fun. We do a lot of family games. Every year I buy several gifts for the house. You know, so I'm identifying popular games or things that I think my kids may like, and I'm buying that particular game for the house, and then we sit around over that when we go away, whether the Hilton Head or whatever, and we just sit around some days and play games. The other thing we do is we do stockings for every child, and we put some things in the stockings that we know are specific to that child. But then I identify, and I haven't figured out what it's going to be this year, but I identify one book that I want the entire family to read. And every child gets that same book. And then over our break, we all read that book together, and then we discuss it as a family. So that's something we've always done. We've been doing it for years now.
Well, and their involvement, that they know what to expect from you, the traditions, will be things that they will probably end up, you're going to laugh someday when you see them with their own kids. Here's the book we're going to do, y'all, and here are the games we're going to do, because those experiences, I think parents through the years, and I'm sure I'm guilty too, have lost sight of the fact that sure they want things and there's peer pressure for things, but like you said, the family interaction,
Right.
and showing the role modeling, and I like that you said you ultimately make the decision because you're the authority figure, and there isn't a single child psychiatrist who won't say kids want their parents to be the authority figures.
Absolutely. They feel safer in that environment.
Absolutely, but to establish those traditions and get ready, you know, so they can look forward to them. Are they already? I mean, I bet that if I were sitting here interviewing Matthew or Jada, they would both be able to tell me basically what you're going to be doing this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk. We talk about our trips. We talk about the things we're going to do. Church life is difficult because we work most holidays. So even on Christmas morning, I'm preaching. You know, unlike most churches, we worship on Christmas Day every year. It doesn't matter what day it falls on. We're going to have a church service.
What time is that service?
Our service is at 9 a.m. It's about an hour and 15-minute service. It's a wonderful service. We actually open. It's a lot of fun. We actually open the service singing "Happy Birthday."
Great.
You know, just kind of, again, keeping that focus. And then we have some very traditional Christmas music. I preach a message. Now we have a church tradition. Our church tradition is that, as you know, we're 10 years old. Every year for the last 10 years, we give every single family in our church a Christmas ornament. So now over the years, we literally have people that have been with us for 10 years that have a very specific, unique Word Tabernacle Christmas ornament that they get every year on Christmas morning when they come to church.
Does it have Word Tabernacle on it?
Some of them do. This year it's going to say Thrive, so it'll be an ornament that says Thrive. Years past has been the church. Years before that, it could just be a biblical saying, "Unto us a child is born, a son is given." So we try to keep a religious theme about it, but it varies.
Right. We're going to take a break. We're going to continue this when we come back.
Okay.
Stay with us, please.
Hi, I'm Richard Koss, Pharmacy Manager at Almonds Drugstore at the Westwood Shopping Center. Here with my wife, daughters, and my business partner, Brad Hilton, and his wife, Katie. We are delighted to be new business owners living in Rocky Mount and are excited about the new services and products we are adding at Almonds Drugstore's 2 locations. With a full-service pharmacy, a large supply of over-the-counter supplements, and a comprehensive line of diabetic supplies, Almonds has you covered. Our pharmacists also specialize in consultations. We want you to pay the lowest prices and get the best service in town, and our staff works hard to help you save money, but we are also big on friendliness and customer care. We will deliver your prescriptions free, have drive-through windows, and guarantee short wait times. And we come out to greet you personally and see how we can answer all of your questions. Because as local business owners, we care about you. As a loyal member of your community for over 70 years, you can count on Almonds Drugs to make the health of you and your family our top priority.
Please call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138.
Thank you for staying with us. We're having a tree-side chat. Could call it a fireside chat, but with my good friend, Pastor James Galliard, talking about Christmas traditions. And we were talking during the break, I just think it's so important that children, young people today, have traditions, like you're saying, and church-based traditions.
Yeah, I think one of the things I share with our congregation is that the holiday, again, is not about presents, but a person. It's not about decorations, but a deity. And so really keeping that focus in front of people and keeping the themes of it around joy, around encouragement, around recognizing that our value system is not placed in the multitude of our possessions. And that's one of the things I love about the Christmas story. And if we tell it well to our children, even if we tell it accurately to our children, the lessons are amazing. You know, the story of a relatively poor family that winds up changing the world. The story of, you know, the multicultural aspects of the Christmas story is really phenomenal. The political climate of the Christmas story. The wise men bringing gifts to Jesus that of gold, frankincense, and myrrh that are very much representative of the life he's about to live. You know, so gold representing the king, the frankincense representing the aroma of his life, the myrrh as the embalmment fluid, so to speak, that winds up being put on dead bodies because he's literally going to live his life to be crucified. The object lesson for our children in that, Gene, and for our parents as well, is that I think our gifts should be more directed at being substantive and not just buying a gift for the sake of having something under the tree and our kids getting a bunch of things that they're never going to use and have no real significance. I think our gift giving needs to really be forward thinking. What is it that I see in my child? What is it that I can give them that will develop them? What can I give them that will move them along the continuum of the journey I see them on? And so, you know, with my son Matthew, for example, I'm always going to buy him gifts relative to the ministry, relative to him develop. I'm going to give him other things as well, but I know that's a path that he's on. So I have a responsibility to direct my gift giving in some of those areas that I think might help develop my kids. You know, so I hope our young people will hear that gift giving and gift receiving should be substantive. It shouldn't just be a matter of filling a box or checking off a box. And I think we as parents have to become more disciplined in that as well. And I also think we've got to do a better job of investing in our actual children and not giving them things that are just going to be wasted in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And so that's something I really try to keep at the forefront of us. And so that is the reason why we worship on Christmas morning. And I don't say this in any way at all to be offensive to any other churches that do not, just from our church culture.
Have you always done that? Did you grow up that way?
I did not grow up that way. And one of the things, but I've always done it since I've been a pastor. I was growing up in church, I was one of those young people that are always asking why. And certain things became strictly a matter of tradition that weren't necessarily biblical from my perspective. And so I never understood why, if we identified December 25th as the actual birth of Christ, then why we had celebrations on the eve of the birth. It just didn't make sense to me. And from a practical perspective, I wouldn't be too happy if my entire family and friends celebrated my birthday on the Christmas Eve, the day before my birthday, and then went and made the day of my birthday all about them. It just doesn't seem quite right to me. And so, from my perspective, when I was in church growing up, we had candlelight services and all that. They were wonderful. We sang the Christmas music and the hymns and the carols. But on Christmas morning, we didn't do anything, but it was all about us. It was about our gifts and what we wanted to do. And so when I became a pastor, I thought, why don't we have church on Christmas? My first year pastoring, I was afraid to do it because no one did it. The next year, I was miserable all year because I was convinced God wanted me to have a Christmas morning service. So the next year, I said, y'all, we're going to have Christmas morning service if it's just an hour long. The church was standing room only.
Really? Because I was going to ask you how well attended it is.
It's very well attended. I assure you, there will not be an empty seat in our sanctuary on Christmas morning. There never has been an empty seat in our sanctuary on Christmas morning. So it's a wonderful time. And I tell our congregation, just put some jeans over top of your pajamas. You know, you don't have to be all dressed up or anything.
So your kids don't wear their pajamas when they
I don't let them.
No.
And we do a continental breakfast. And so we do some biscuits, sausage biscuits or whatever, and some Danish orange juice and coffee. So people don't have to cook breakfast. You know, they can just kind of roll out of bed, open up a few gifts. Now with my family, our children, other than their Christmas Eve pajamas, they can't open any gifts until after worship service. It's my way of establishing priority for them. It's my way of saying this holiday really is about Jesus. Now, because he's so unbelievably good, he's going to share it with you, but we're not going to make it about us first. We're going to make it about him. So we're going to go to church, we're going to worship as a family, and then after we worship as a family, we'll come home and we will open our gifts and have a great day together. We go to 2 worship services on Christmas because we do one at 9 a.m. at Word Tabernacle, and Bishop Shelton Daniel at Greater Joy does one at 11 a.m. And so we'll leave our church service and then we'll go over to Shelton Daniel's church at Greater Joy.
Presents between the two?
We do not. We leave right from our church and we go over to his church, and we worship with him. And then after we're done there, we come on home and get comfortable, open up our gifts, have a great day together, and then prepare for our trip that's going to take us to the end of the year.
I just think the time as a parent that you invest in your children and they know you're really thinking about them, and I think if there would be, besides the worshiping part, and remember to put Christ first for Christmas, to just tell parents that one of the greatest gifts that they can give them is their time and their one-on-one focus, because so few kids today, with all the media around, and of course we're on media right now, but put it all down and just look at them and talk to them.
I totally agree, and this is something I have to work on because the ministry is very busy, the church is growing, and there's a lot happening. I think the reason my kids love so much our annual trip right after Christmas leading up to New Year's is not about where we go. It's just about the fact that we're together.
And they get you all to themselves.
Absolutely. I don't take any phone calls. I don't handle any emergencies. I have a staff that's going to take care of that. I just want to spend time with the kids. And so we'll go to Hilton Head and we'll get lucky because it might be about 55 degrees. And man, we'll rent bikes and we'll just ride on the beach and we'll just have a great time together. And you need those. And that's what I think people should be reminded about when it comes to Christmas. We need to be reminded again about the value of investing in people. That first and most important person, the person of Christ, and then our family, and the people that really matter the most. And I think we have so much to celebrate that we just have to take a step back and really celebrate who Christ is in our life, and then celebrate the blessing of family. And it's hard because, and I do want to acknowledge the fact that, and I'll go through this as well. You are going to have those moments. My oldest son is not with us, and my dad is not with us, and other families are going to go through those. Parents are no longer here, so it's very easy to get depressed. The statistics around depression around the holidays are very high, and I think the way you combat that is to have a thankful spirit. And to think about the people that are in your life. Think about the experiences the Lord has blessed you with. Think about the years you did have with that person. And then have a thankful spirit. And as a result of that, even when there are people that are not with us during the holidays, I still think we can have a lot of joy in the midst of it.
And for people, if they know of somebody who doesn't have anybody, family nearby, to reach out to them and include them with your family and with your celebration, because I know every year the local churches have the longest night. Jody Wright at Lakeside is always very involved in that, but there's a service where people get together and just acknowledge that this has been a tough year. There have been losses, and that people year after year keep going often because they want to acknowledge that everybody says I'm supposed to be happy, but this is, especially when you're dealing with everybody's supposed to be happy and you've lost somebody that you're sad about. So,
Absolutely.
So look for people and think about people whom you might know who have lost somebody or may not have family nearby, and invite them over. It would be a gift for them, but also a gift for your family.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And we as a church need to do a better job of that as well. We have 340 churches in Rocky Mount. And I think just taking a moment to adopt a family, or, we're adopting several families right now. Families that are homeless or families that have been transitioning out of homes or recently lost family members. We're reaching out to mothers who have had experienced violence amongst their children and lost their children.
Oh gosh.
So we're reaching out to them to try to minister to them. The children of prisoners. It's a great group of kids to be able to minister to. They don't have a mom or dad because they're incarcerated. And so there's going to be a financial deficit for a church or a not-for-profit to adopt them, to bring them a gift, to try to encourage them. One gift I give everyone is a gift of books.
Yeah.
I believe in it. Most times, I probably buy more books at Christmas than anything else. So I literally, will buy hundreds of books. I also buy 2 cases of a book that has influenced me the most in the previous year, keep them for the next year, and as ministers visit me, I give them to them as a gift for the remainder of the year.
We've got very little time left, but you are now doing a Bible study between your regular Tuesday Bible studies at noon and at 7. Tell us how we can watch it.
Yep, it's on Periscope. Download Periscope. It's a Twitter type of app. They need a Twitter account. They can follow me at JD Gailliard, JDGAILLIARD. They can follow me on Twitter and on Periscope, and I Periscope live at 12 noon every Tuesday for about 20 minutes. And then it stays on the Periscope account for 24 hours.
Oh, good.
So if they miss it, they can click on the link just by following me, and they'll be able to watch it.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
And I can guarantee you'll be glad you did. And you're doing them in interesting situations too, very casual in your office, wherever.
Yeah, today I was in my office. Next week I'll be at the pond. Maybe one day next week I'll maybe do Detroit. Yeah.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for your friendship.
Oh, sure, and thank you. And we see you in the new year.